Keanu Reeves, the beloved Hollywood star known for his humility and generosity, has once again captured the hearts of fans with a touching act of kindness. Far from the glitz and glamour of the silver screen, Reeves' recent encounter at a local grocery store has left people inspired by his genuine humanity. In a world often dominated by headlines of celebrity scandals, this simple yet profound gesture reminds us why Keanu Reeves is admired not just as an actor but as a role model. Let's dive into this heartwarming story that has everyone talking. Coins of compassion. It was an ordinary morning at the local market, with the sun barely breaking through the overcast sky. The streets were damp, and the cool air carried the scent of freshly baked bread and damp earth. People bustled around, moving from stall to stall, picking out their groceries and engaging in soft conversation. The market was a place of routine, a place where faces could blend together in a seamless rhythm of everyday life. Near the front of the market, an elderly woman shuffled along with a small, weathered purse clutched tightly in her hands. Her silver hair was tied back in a simple bun, and her wrinkled face was framed by a scarf she'd tied just a bit too tightly to protect herself from the morning chill. She was careful with her steps, her back slightly hunched, the weight of the years telling on her body. She reached the checkout counter, her small cart filled with a few vegetables, some bread, and a carton of milk. The market employee behind the counter, a young man in his 20s, noticed her as she approached. He had been scanning items with quick, practiced efficiency, his movements sharp and impatient. The woman's cart was simple, her purchases modest, and he looked at her with a mixture of annoyance and indifference. The old woman placed her items on the counter, and without a word, she began to open her purse. Her fingers were slow, trembling slightly as she dug through the coins, one by one, stacking them in front of him. The employee, who was just about to scan the next item, rolled his eyes. He'd seen this happen many times before. Elderly customers paying with loose change, taking their time. It was always a hassle. "Are you seriously paying with coins?" he asked, his voice dripping with disdain. The elderly woman didn't look up at him. She simply continued to count the change, her hand shaking with the effort. She was trying to make sure every penny was accounted for, not wanting to take any more than she needed to. "You know, you could just use a card or something," the young man continued, his tone bordering on rude. "This is going to take forever." The woman didn't respond. Her lips trembled, but she kept her focus on the coins. It wasn't that she didn't understand the inconvenience. She knew exactly how people felt about her, how they looked at her with impatience and irritation. It was something she'd become used to over the years, but that didn't make it easier. The line behind her started to grow longer. People shifted uncomfortably, glancing at their watches, muttering under their breath. The young man behind the counter noticed the tension and sighed loudly. "Come on, hurry up," he muttered, casting a frustrated glance at the woman. "You can't just pay with a card like everyone else. Seriously, we don't have time for this." The elderly woman flinched slightly, her cheeks reddening. She had heard the whispers and the judgments before, but it still stung every time. She wasn't paying with cards or bills because she didn't want. Tosh simply didn't have them. These coins were all she had left, and yet, it didn't matter. She was always made to feel like a burden. The employee's impatience was palpable now. He began to tap his foot, crossing his arms over his chest. "I can't believe this," he muttered under his breath. "I've got other customers to take care of. Lady, can you just get it together?" At that moment, just as the situation was reaching its boiling point, the door to the market opened, and a tall figure stepped inside. Keanu Reeves entered the store as if he'd been part of the everyday scene, blending in with the crowd. His casual jacket, jeans, and boots didn't scream celebrity, but there was a quiet aura about him that caused heads to turn. He stood at the back of the line, silently observing the exchange at the counter. He wasn't in a rush, he wasn't bothered by the wait. He had time, but he couldn't ignore the scene unfolding before him. There was something unsettling about the way the young employee treated the elderly woman. It wasn't just impatience, it was disdain. Keanu's eyes lingered on the old woman for a moment. Seeing the sadness in her expression, the tight grip she had on her purse, the way she tried to make herself smaller, trying to avoid the scrutiny, and then, just as the employee opened his mouth to make another cruel remark, Keanu took a step forward. Had let impatience and judgment cloud his perspective, and now, he was learning a lesson he wouldn't soon forget. As Keanu handed over the money, he turned to the elderly woman with a smile. "Take care of yourself, okay," he said. "You deserve a little peace today." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't expected this kind of generosity. She had come to the market simply to buy a few things, to try and make ends meet, but now she was walking away with something far more valuable, a reminder that there was still kindness in the world. As Keanu turned to leave, he paused for a moment and looked at the young employee, who was now standing silently, the weight of the situation settling in. Keanu gave him a small, understanding nod. "You know," Keanu said quietly, "sometimes it's not the size of the payment that matters, it's the respect you show the person making it. We all have our struggles, A little compassion goes a long way. The young man stood still, the words hanging in the air. He looked down at the counter, his face flushed with shame, but there was a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He had seen something today, something that went beyond what he'd known before. As Keanu walked out of the market, the room felt different. The tension had lifted, replaced by a quiet reflection. The elderly woman, now holding her bags, walked out with a small smile, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The young employee stood there for a moment longer, his thoughts churning. He realized that he would never forget the lesson he had learned today, the true value of kindness, and how a simple act of compassion could change someone's world. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more heartwarming moments like this. Share the kindness, and let's spread positivity together.